Hello Internet, I'm quite excited today. In the middle of last year, I placed an order for this. Man, it's heavy. It's taken a long time to get here. I did the pre-order. I'm not a fan of Kickstarter, but obviously after the Kickstarter was over, all the board games did a pre-order and I grabbed this and the associated bits and bobs that go with it, including 7 fairly expensive poker chips. And in the rules, there's this. And you go, what? Like, why would you not have components in a game? Well, actually, it makes sense. Most of the people that play 18xx do not like paper money. And actually, I have to say, they're right. It's an annoying thing to try and do, or to try and handle. So they all buy poker chips, and I'm like, I can't really see some poker chips that I like. You can have custom ones made, but that's more than I want to spend. Tight old man here. So I thought, well, this is a chance for a DIY project. So I make myself some poker money tokens because, like, a lot of games come with, cardboard money tokens in them, and handling them is better than paper money. It's not as tactile as a poker chip, I know, but it's still quite good. And I thought, well, maybe we can make some of those for our copy of 1822 that does not come with money. And that's a good opportunity to share something with you internet folk.
So the software we're going to use is called GIMP. Stop laughing at the back of the class. It stands for GNU Image Manipulation Program. It's a bit like Photoshop, but it's free and it works on all computers. You can just download it and use it just like I am. Anyway, you can actually load an image from the clipboard. So if you've actually done a cut and paste off the internet and you want to start with like an image you already got, you could use that. Or you can do create new image like I'm doing here. And we're going to go to an A4 sheet at 300 by 300 dpi. And the last thing I did, I was using grape color as a background, so we need to change that to white, and it's also wrong, so we'll go transform and rotate 90 degrees to get it into landscape. I'm going to make it white with the bucket fill, and once it's white, you can actually go to the colors menu and make it see-through. So what we're actually going to do is create a whole lot of layers, and the order of the layer is actually quite important. Anyway, look, we'll go down colors menu, color to alpha down the bottom, click on that, and you'll see that this is going to become transparent. When you see these checks, this is actually a transparent layer that you can't see through. Now, the next thing we need to do is work out where the middle of this sheet is, because we're going to do a front and a back, and when we've printed them out, they're going to stick back to back on either side of a sheet of cardboard, because for our cardboard tokens. So we're going to use some guides for this. This is set the guide to 50% horizontal, and that's smack in the middle of the page horizontally. And if we do the same thing again, but this time select vertical with the pull down, there we are. We have the middle of the page. And this is really important because we want to print everything that we want to stick back to back has to, like, obviously register with all the other things we've printed. And so having the middle of the page marked will make your job much easier when you put these things back to back with some glue. Anyway, what we're going to do is make a layer the same size as the money token that we're going to use. And I'm picking 30 millimeters by 50 millimeters because that just seems like a good place to start. That's a nice size for something to fit in your hand. So we'll click OK on that. And we're making the back of this white because that's, like, a nice thing to start drawing on. You click on the 4 arrows up in the top and select active layer, and then you can move this and you'll notice that it actually catches itself on the middle there like that. And that's because we have, snap to grids set. So now we have a small layer on a bigger painting, canvas it's actually called, and we'll just draw one and then we'll copy this one over and over again to get all of our tokens that we want. If you look at the bottom right, you can see it says money and background. We called that layer money because that's what we're drawing. Now, one of the things we're going to want to do is make like a whole array of these, and an easy way to do that is with a grid that we can snap to keep everything basically sorted out. And so I'm setting the grid spacing to half of what my layer is. If we had a 50 by 30 millimeter layer, then we've set the grid spacing to 25 by 15. And then we need to make the grid visible. So we go to make the grid visible. There we are. And you can see that's like a grid that is double what our layer is. But it's also offset. We need to like line it up so that it's useful, because if we snap to that grid there, things aren't going to line up with our piece that we already have, which is, as we already described, in the middle of the page. So if you go down to the offset bit down the bottom here, you can see you can click around and move the grid. And I needed to like click on the, there we are, the chain link at the bottom, so we can move one of them at a time without the other one coming along for the ride. And with a bit of clicking around, you will get the grid to line up exactly perfectly with the layer that we made to start with. So there we are. So now when we make copies of this layer, we can just drag it around and it will like line up nicely with the one we started with. And to make that happen, we're going to select Snap to Grid. So we have Snap to Guides and Snap to Grid both set. There we are. Now, our little money ticket looking like this is going to be a bit bland if we just colored it all the way to the edge. So we want a white border. So I'm going to make a selection in here and fill this selection. So I'm just doing this by eye. We make a selection that's smaller than the layer. And then if we colored that in, that would actually give us like a token shape of color with a white border around it. So we'd have somewhere to trim along the edges. But I'd actually like to do something on the corners. So I'm just going to put some black dots in the corners here. So I need to select the foreground color to black. I accidentally clicked on that. Oh, and then I did it again because like dopey. Come on, you can do this, Andrew. There we go. We put one of those in each corner. I'm just lining this up by eye. This is not necessarily that important. Not like the shape, the overall shape, which is important and should line up. So now we've done that, and we have selected the inside of the screen. We can go to Select by Color and select Subtract from the current selection. So there's an Add, there's a Subtract, and there's just select everything again and forget about what you have selected. And then there's an XOR selection, which is everything that intersects two selections. A bit of people who understand Boolean maths will understand that one well. But we only want the minus, and we've done that. We've selected, so those black bits are now not part of the selection. So if we go up to select and invert this, well, actually, we'll invert it. Thank you. Now we can go and get white color as the foreground with a drawing tool and a nice big fat cursor and just rub out all the black bits that we did. And you can see we have a shape there that looks like, a railway ticket or something like that. And we'll re-invert that again. So we're now selecting the inside, and you can tell where you've selected by the way the ants run around. Now we're just, if you look around the outside, it looks like there's a line of ants moving. That's pretty much shows you where the selection is. Now I've just got a drawing tool and I'm just putting some, earthy beige parchmenty colors here, quite pale ones, just randomly on here, which will be the basis for our, hopefully not too flat looking ticket color, money color. This is really just a way to demonstrate a few of the things the way GIMP works. So if you wanted to use it to make some stuff of your own, this would be a good starting point, I hope. Anyway, we've got the smudgy finger and we're just smudging around. Now you'll notice when you pull in from the outside in that you will actually drag some of the outside color with you. So if you look here, I could do that. You can see the white comes in. So we're going to just drag, now that we've got some white in there, we're going to drag from the center out. We may as well make the cursor bigger because that's sort of, the bigger the cursor, the better the smudge. What do you reckon? We're going to smudge around until we sort of get, our sort of parchmenty looking ticket thing, sort of nice basically a background that is just not one solid flat color, something that looks a little more interesting than just one solid flat color. I think that's probably good enough. Okay, you can stop now, Andrew. You can stop now. No, good. It's finally stopped. So now we need to put some money in the middle of it. So what I did was I had to like go and find a pound sign, believe it or not. But before we do that, we're going to create another layer. So we'll... Oh no, we're going to select a group of layers. So what we're going to do is you can group layers like folders in directories in your, folders in your computer hard drive. So we've created a layer group for our money. And that means once we've finished, we're able to copy our groups and everything will be kept in order basically. So I did a cut and paste of £1 that I went and just, use the keyboard to get your pound or your dollar. But the last color we used was like a beigey color, and that's no good. We want some contrast. So I could just do this black, but I don't think that would look quite as good as like a dark grapey, warm purpley color. That's not bad, not dark enough. Let's go a bit darker. There we are. It's like nearly black, but not quite. I quite like the color of that. If we go to the crosses up in the top left on the toolbar again, we can move this around. It's pretty important to... What are we doing here? I think we were checking that we had snap to grid on, but we do have snap to grid on. And we can just move that and it will snap to the middle like that. There's actually a center of that layer basically. So now we have like a money value on our like not too boring flat colored ticket. But these things always look better if you have like a little bit of shadow around them or something like that. So I'm going to create another layer, and of course it's come out white, and it's also the size of the full sheet, which is not what we want. We want our layer to be the size of the existing ticket that we're designing. So I'm going to go to the selection tool again and select just the normal selection, and then go onto the layer thing and say crop to selection. And now the new layer we've made is exactly the same size as the ticket, and it's also in the layer group that we have. But it's covering everything up because it's white. So we move it down one level, and now it's sitting, the white layer is sitting between the beigey layer and the money. Evidently I've decided to name that note because note seems like a better name for it than money. Anyway, once again, we're going to go color to alpha, and that will change the white to transparent, and then we can see through it. So that middle layer is now basically invisible. But we're going to put something on it. I want to put like a halo, shadowy type effect around the £1 text. So we go to the £1 text layer and we click select by color. So we're just going to select all that color. And then we're going to make this selection bigger than what we have by a few pixels. So if we go up to select and say grow, our selection will grow, and that's too big. We don't want it quite that big. We just want a few pixels. And I think I ended up deciding that 1/4 millimeter bigger all the way around was good. But you could use pixels if you don't want to use millimeters or inches. Although I do like using real values of measurement because that gives you an idea of what it's going to be when you print it out on your printer. So we go 0.25 in here, and there, that looks like a good size. We've actually already selected the invisible layer. We're going to pick a color that we like, which really, I think should just be white. Don't know why I'm doing this. White, come on, white. Just pick white. Well done. Okay, and now we're going to click on the bucket fill and select fill the entire selection and click on that, and you'll see we get like a little white outline, which is, I think, a little bit harsh. I want it to sort of fade into the background a bit so it doesn't quite look quite as harsh as that. So what I'm going to do now is grow my selection again, although I could probably just turn the selection off here, but I'll grow this selection again to like keep my fade out of everything else. And then go to filters, blur, Gaussian blur, and then there's a size X and a size Y, which we're just going to dial up a little bit, and you can see it changes in real time. And now our £1 has sort of like a halo around it that sort of helps it stand out from the background. And that's what we were basically shooting for. Whenever you're putting text on something, dropping a layer in between the something and the text and making it like a little halo or a drop shadow or something like that. Yeah, it just helps that text stand out and makes it a little bit more understandable. Okay, so now we've closed down our all our layers into our layer copy, and I'm just going to press the copy button and get a whole lot. So now what you're looking at is a whole stack of these things on top of each other. Imagine them stacked on the table and you're looking down from the top. So we can grab one of them with the move tool and just pull it out, and then select another one from the layer list and just pull it out, and we've got like a whole bunch of just like £1 noti token things for our 18xx game. I'm actually going to upload these two files to the Party Meeple webpage, and people can print them out and make them themselves. In fact, the graphics I've done, I've modified because these ones are a bit too hard to cut out. We'll get to that later. So the ones you download to print, if you want to do them, just copy mine, will be a bit easier to print. Anyway, now that we've got that out of the way, we need a 5. So we've opened up one of our layers and edited the text on it. You can just click in the text box with the text, the big letter A tool activated, and you can edit it with your backspace and pick a new number. But now that we've done that, we need to like edit our halo as well. So once again, we move on to the text, do a select by color, move down to the invisible layer, and basically bucket fill that with white, then do the blur to make it sort of look nice and hazy. And you're going to do that for the other currencies. I've gone 1, 5, 20, 100, 500. I probably could have thought about it more, but I just thought going in multiples of 5 was nice and easy. We need to, generate 12,000 pounds of currency to play 1822, and 5 sheets printed like this. Here we are. Easily does that by a few £100. I've also printed a back, or designed a back to go on the back of these. Now, when you print it out, you need to turn off your ignore page margins, or turn on rather, and dial in exactly 300 DPI, and that way it will turn out exactly the right size that you asked for. You obviously choose your print quality and what have you, but it's really important to turn off the page margins because the margins your computer has might be different on different sides, and so when you print both of these out, they're not going to register when you put them back to back, and like you'll cut out very neatly on one side and you'll flip the thing over and it will be wrong. Anyway, I've sped this little bit up a bit. We've covered sticking labels onto cardboard before to make cards or tokens, and this is what we're doing here. Basically, I line up, I peel one edge of the label back, say 25, 30 millimeters, an inch or whatever in American talk, and then line up the other edge. And once that's nicely lined up, I press the sticky edge down because it's sort of just floating above the surface. You can move it around without it tacking to anything, and then work backwards towards the middle. And that way you will like get the two surfaces like beautifully aligned. The only time this doesn't work is when your printer pulls a little bit extra paper in each time, or a little bit less, when its paper feed is not 100% consistent, and this can prove to be a problem. And the way you can check this is by doing a little bit of measuring between the edge of the sheet and one of your graphics there. So you can sort of just check out that, everything is right. And on this particular occasion, the printer like pulled one of the sheets in a millimeter earlier, I guess you would call it. So I allow for that on the left hand side, and then do this again. And when you'll see that when we cut this out, the two sides are quite well lined up. I gave it another check just to see if I was right. And we run the ruler along the edge. There's actually some registration marks on these sheets when you download them. And you can see that's pretty accurate there. Unfortunately, I didn't get them all accurate, but you can't win all the time. One of the things I do when I'm cutting a large sheet of counters out is only cut like 95% of the way through, so you end up with some fingers, and then you can just chop the fingers off, which is like not torturous at all, and you cut a lot of counters out quite quickly doing this. You'll notice I'm using a rotary cutter. Like, seriously, if you're going to do some print and play board game making, a rotary cutter and a cutting mat is like an essential thing. That's not expensive. So you can see these make quite nice little tokens. Unfortunately, I didn't get some of them lined up properly, but the files I've put on the Party Meeple website have wider borders, so that shouldn't be such a problem for other people having a go at this. Go and download them and see how you go. Thanks for watching.